Welcome to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, where there's always another secret.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Today is September 10th, not September 11th or 3rd, and we are recording episode 13. Welcome back, and I am Bill, and as always, I am joined by my regal co-hosts, Amy and Jordan.
Hello, hello.
It's amazing how you nail that every single time.
Every single time. I've never stumbled over it, especially not 2 episodes ago.
Definitely not.
Never.
In this episode, we will be continuing our discussion of The Way of Kings, Book 1, in Brandon Sanderson's epic saga, The Stormlight Archive. Tonight, in Part 3 of our discussion, we will be focusing on Dalinar, Adolin, and the campaign on the Shattered Plains. And, of course, Navani may make an appearance.
Just a bit. A bit.
She's one of my favorites. For our audience members who are listening to the podcast or watching the videos on YouTube, don't forget that we record each episode live at www.twitch.tv/InkeepersTable. We have a live chat running during the recording of each episode, so if you want to be a part of the discussion, join us here every other Monday night starting at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. We are looking forward to seeing you. Now, just as a reminder, we say every other week. Because of some technical difficulties we had last week, we are recording a week later than normal. So we'll return to our normal schedule 1 week from today on what is a week from today. It's September 17th, right?
Yes. You're doing great.
Okay, I remember. So
all I know is things are much better now that we actually have the internet.
I like internet. I miss internet sometimes.
I'm just glad the contest is over, so I don't have to stress about it anymore.
Tell us about the contest.
So it was crazy, and it's really weird. Like, I was the model of calm for like a whole bunch of people in line. It was really weird, like, because I got stuck or I was put by a bunch of other people who had not been in the contest. They're like, I don't know what I'm going to do on stage. They're getting all like ready to freak out, and I'm sitting there going, I should be freaking out, but I've already done this once, so there's no point in freaking out. And so I talked a couple people, and we're like, you know what, this is what I did. This is what I've heard is good, better to do. You know, like different tips that way. And one of the people I gave tips to got second place. So, yay.
So technically, you got second place.
I told her, don't freak out on stage. Just go there and do your power walk and do it. Because she was Hippolyta from.
Walk. She was who?
She was Hippolyta from Wonder Woman.
That's definitely somebody who deserves a power walk.
And she hadn't even picked her music, so she's like, I just hope they picked good music. And I'm like, I can't help you with that part. Yeah, you just gotta hope they did it right.
What music did you end up using for yours?
Me? So you know the movie Cinderella, the animated one.
Okay.
So there's a scene where the mouse, Gus, gets stuck under the teacup, and then Cinderella gets in trouble, and she goes into the stepmother's room, and her stepmother assigns her to clean, like, the entire house. I did that monologue. And so I snapped the judges, and, Cinderella talks back, and I'm like, silence! And, like, snap at the crowd. And there was one kid who got scared. Which I was like, internally I was like, I succeeded right there.
Doesn't that mean you've done your job?
I know, if I scare somebody, then I did my job, yeah.
As
but
the wicked stepmother.
And there were some little kids that I was eating lunch outside, like, and they would, like, peek around their mom, and I'd be like, hi, and wave, and they'd be like, hide more behind their mom. And I wouldn't go near them or anything, but I was just like, I'll just wave a little bit or whatever. But like a bunch of people were like, you're too nice, and I'm like, yeah, I got to work on that. I'm sorry, I'm not very mean normally.
Did you get back to the fairy godmother that we saw the other day?
I didn't. I went and talked to her, and then I totally spaced going with my daughter to go see her, and I still don't have a picture of us together, which I'm so pissed at myself.
Really?
Yeah, because my husband forgot to, like, we were doing enough random stuff and going all over that. And I've put out my plea to the FanX Facebook groups, and nobody has found one yet. And I'm like, I know there were requests. I know they were there. But nobody has said, here's your picture of you together. So I figure I'll do it for Halloween, and if nothing else, I'll be like, okay, Gwen, you have to dress up for a few minutes in that, and then you can dress up in whatever else, because it's a pretty easy costume for her to put on.
Cool. For those of you who aren't sure what we're talking about, this last weekend was FanX, which used to be called Salt Lake City Comic-Con, and so Amy and I both went. Amy got all sorts of pictures because she was cosplaying every day. First day she was Toph, and I was basically her child wrangler.
Child wrangler. It's like, here, take the children picture. Take the children picture.
And then the second day, who were you?
I was Star-Lord, but I'm a girl, so. And, like, I only had 2 picture requests, which made me kind of sad, but I figure I didn't have the helmet, and I'm a girl, so people aren't going to recognize me.
Not as easily, yeah.
Oh, well.
And then, of course, you were Lady
Tremaine. Which I was tempted to bring my wig out so I could have it there, but you wouldn't see it in the podcast anyway. But yeah, if you look up my Instagram or my Facebook or my Twitter, you will see pictures of me with the insane wig and the whole get up.
Which is quite impressive.
Oh boy.
And insane. Insane in the membrane.
Insane in the brain. Yes.
Now, here's the other thing. If you are following us on social media, you may have noticed that there was somebody else at FanX this year. Who was that? There was none other than Mr. Brandon Sanderson was there. He did signings all three nights, I believe.
Yeah, but the third night I was at the contest, so I couldn't do that. The second night my children were exhausted and the line was insanely long, so I didn't get to do it. But the first night, what did you do?
I actually made it. I got there a little bit early, so I was about 4th or 5th in line. And I may or may not have gotten a book signed.
Possibly.
Just maybe.
I didn't get a book signed for myself. If you want to read the actual inscription, let's see if I can find it. It says, to a listener of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. Now, who is that? That is you, my friends. So we are having another giveaway. And I just realized we didn't decide how we want them to be able to enter the giveaway.
We should probably have them tag people, because that's what we decided before. Is that's better than liking the post or the video or whatever it is. We'll put up on Instagram and Facebook and stuff.
Yeah. So what we're gonna do is on our social media accounts, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, we're going to post a picture of this book, and what we want you to do is tag a friend of yours who's a Brandon Sanderson fan. And if you when you tag somebody, that will enter yourself for the drawing. And then in 3 weeks, we have a special guest who will be coming on, and she will draw from the entries. Now, if you're a patron, you will get an automatic entry that will be in addition to any entries that you make on our social media accounts. So, but you don't have, and so if you want an extra chance, then go to www.patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. Drop us $1 or $2. We'd love to just see you there. So,
and we'd love your $1 or $2 as well if you're so willing.
Honestly, though, Patreon is one of the best ways, probably the best way to support us, and it really only takes like $1 per episode. So, because every dollar ends up counting, and that'll help us to continue to make episodes regularly, hopefully even more frequently, and improve the show. For example, you may hear my voice kind of sounding a little funny right now. We'll be able to get better equipment, so that won't be the case anymore. So, but yeah, beyond that, anything else going on before we dive in? Any news from either of you?
Mostly just FanX, and I had fun in the contest, but I didn't win, but that's okay, because I still did much better on stage than last year, so yay.
Awesome. Oh, I may actually probably should announce who our special guest will be in 3 weeks. So next week, we'll be finishing up our discussion of the Cosmere. We're going to be talking about the interludes and the epigrams and all the other stuff in the Way of Kings that we haven't talked about yet. And then the week after that, we'll be reading one of the short stories that's actually in Arcanum Unbounded. It's called Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell, and we'll have a guest host. If any of you are familiar with Charlie N. Holmberg, she is an author. She's written such books as The Paper Magician, followed by Frost, Magic Bitter, Magic Sweet. She's written a lot of books, and she's also a friend of the podcast, so she'll be coming on and guest hosting. So we're excited to have her. So if you're a fan of her writing, make sure to join us, and she's going to join us and give some insight on her experience. She actually took Brandon's course in college, and then she's going to give some of her insights just into her own work and as an author looking at another author's work. So we're looking forward to that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. As a reminder to those of you who may just be tuning in, for the first pretty much a year of this podcast, we're going to be taking a broad look at each book that Brandon's written in the Cosmere and see how it plays with the rest of the Cosmere. Later on, we're going to dive into some of the concepts that span the various series and talk about what we're calling the aluminum foil hat theories. Basically, all the crazy ideas that we think, oh, this is what Brandon's going to do next. Oh, no, what if he's doing this? What if it means something else? And who killed Asmodean? Sorry, wrong series. Anyway, we're going to be talking about our own theories and those submitted by our listeners. So if you've got an idea about the Cosmere that you want us to talk about, make sure to email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com. In the last episode, we talked about Shallan's story and her interactions with Dalinar Kholin, and in our next episode, we're going to be talking about basically everything else, but this episode, we are focusing on Dalinar.
The Blackthorn.
The Blackthorn. Now, Dalinar is one of my favorite characters ever, just because I love how stubbornly honorable he is.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like he kind of embodies Captain America's statement of, no, you move.
Yeah.
Especially just when you look at the court on the Shattered Plains, all of them are sort of becoming more foppish, and they're just like, Dalinar, you're so out of date, you're so out of touch, you should just change and do what we do. And he's just like, no, this is right, I am doing the right thing.
I don't care if you frown at me and make fun of me. This is what I'm doing.
You want to get into a frowning contest, I'll win every time.
It is true. He is pretty good at it.
Uh-huh.
Very stoic.
And so, now, Dalinar is sort of an interesting character because he is this steadfast guy, but he wasn't always.
Oh no! I can't remember how many flashbacks we actually get of him. Do we get? We don't
get any flashbacks except for
right.
the prologue. We just see very, very little of him. But
yeah, that's
he's
like
basically
later.
drunk in the corner the whole time. But yeah, basically he was this crazed warrior almost.
Oh,
he was the very definition of Alethi, what an Alethi man should be when it came to the actual fight.
He was basically, his brother is the one who became king, but he was the hammer that his brother wielded.
Oh, yeah.
He would, because Gavilar didn't take Alethkar through diplomacy. He took it by force. He literally took it. They went out and they just wrested control. And again, Dalinar was basically the weapon that made that possible.
Dalinar is... The thing I find interesting about him is he very much embodied... everyone looked up to him in the sense of, oh, this is what an Alethi man is supposed to be. And then at this point in the story, we don't know what changed other than his brother's death, which did change him in some ways.
Quite a bit.
But the thing that I found most interesting about him is the fact that not only is he trying to change the way they look at things, trying to bring honor into the Alethi ways, which isn't part of what they do. They're not an honorable people.
No.
They're conniving, and we're going to get more into some of them who are just absolute pieces of work. But he tries to bring honor to it, but on occasion, he'll do things to remind them, no, I'm still the awesome guy.
I can still take you.
One of my favorite moments is at the very end of the book, when he finally has had it with Elhokar. And he walks in, and Elhokar turns up to face me, and he's like, "Oh, hello, Uncle, how is..." And he just grabs him by the neck, and just drops him to the ground. He's like, "Okay, here's how it's gonna go."
Puts his hand on his exposed chest at that point, beat him so thoroughly that he broke his chest plate.
Through the shard plate. Right?
Yeah, yes. And puts his hand on his chest, and just showing all it will take, the only thing it'll take is just a little push, and we're done here.
Well, the other thing was when he said, he's like, "You can scream. My guards are the ones outside, and who do you think they're more loyal to?" And Elhokar's freaking out, and finally he says, "My point is I could have killed you at any moment, and you're still alive. Yeah. That is proof of my loyalty."
So don't go pushing this point anymore. We're done.
Just when he'd finally had enough, and he's just like, no, I am not dealing with this anymore. This ends tonight.
Oh, and by the way...
it makes you think of, dealing with a toddler or, a little kid who's just, pushed every button, and you're just so done.
Yeah, Kalani in the chat says, "Whoa, goosebumps." And I'm just like, that. When I read that scene, I'm just like, oh... That is why Dalinar is one of my favorite characters.
The other thing that's really cool about him is the fact that Brandon likes to pick people who are hyper competent in one area, but have glaring weaknesses in other. And so, in people oh my goodness, I'm blanking on his name, Warbreaker, his actual name.
Vasher.
Vasher. He's someone who is incredibly competent in the areas of study, but horribly competent in interpersonal areas. Dalinar is actually not horrible at politics, on the grander scale. Mm-hmm. He's bad at the individual politics of a court. He's in fact horrible at it.
Intrigue.
Yeah, intrigue is
he's not good at intrigue, but because he is a very straightforward person.
And he's impatient. He's never been a patient man. Mm-hmm. And in part that becomes because, he's always stuck behind the fact that he can beat things into the ground. And as soon as he doesn't have a problem... Because, even the one time we see him go do political stuff with that one High Lord, he... is trying to be subtle. It's like, oh, isn't it great that he gives us these soul casters? Isn't it great? Don't you think you owe it to him? Isn't it great? Yes, Dalinar, your point is made.
It's you're not very subtle. You can stop now.
He is as subtle as the warhammer he uses to dig a latrine trench.
Which, again, that scene.
Oh, that's
I love that one because it's just sort of a focus on the simple effectiveness and meditation of manual labor. Mm-hmm. There have been times where if you're just doing something repetitive, even if it's physically draining, it allows your mind to just release a lot of the tension it's been holding because it's something simple.
Yeah, I've found that when I'm super stressed and if I don't get exercise in, I get even more stressed more easily because I don't have that outlet. And I've been bad about that recently, and I need to get back into that. Anyway, stress, fun stuff.
Yeah.
But I also liked that he got in trouble with Navani too, because she's like, "So you missed our meeting."
Oh gosh.
And he totally had forgotten about it and hadn't realized how long he'd been doing it and everything. And she's like, "So you're filthy and doing a latrine here, and we were supposed to talk, and you just what happened?"
Okay, we'll talk about Navani in a second. I do want to focus on a few other aspects of Dalinar and then Adolin, and then I think Navani will be the next. But one of the things that's interesting about Dalinar is, again, Brandon likes having broken heroes, and Dalinar has some scars.
Some big
some
ones.
of them we don't even find out about for another couple books, but but it's just, you can tell there is a past there. The fact that his brother died on a night when he was drunk out of his mind, he carries that with him every second of every day.
Yeah.
And Sadeas won't let him forget it either.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
There's some animosity there.
But the other thing, and again, we only get a taste of it, is the fact that he has no memory of his wife.
She's
to the point where if somebody says her name, he basically hears radio static. And
it's too bad he can't read, because I really am curious if he would have been able, if like the words would have been blurred.
I'll bet they would have blurred. I would imagine that they would blur.
And I also wonder, not that he would know because he doesn't remember her name, if anybody else who had a similar name, if their name would have been
that I don't
static.
know.
That's a random thought I had.
But the thing that we do know is that he went and he visited
The Night Watcher.
this being called the Night Watcher. We don't really know anything about the Night Watcher other than it has something to do with what's called the old magic.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing that's interesting, though, is, as far as I know, nobody else knows that he went to see the Night Watcher. Is that right?
That's correct, because he went...
I thought like he had like one lieutenant or some random person who knew.
Is that the one who became an Ardent?
I can't remember. I thought there was one person who knew that he did it. It might have been the Ardent, but like nobody else did, because he made sure it was like one little select group.
Because I think he did have a captain who became an Ardent, right?
Yeah.
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 Something. Yeah, I can't remember that name.
Because that's a big one in Oathbringer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's he was not proud that he did that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's
that's not something that you really talk about in Vorin. Like in Vorinism, it's paramount to heresy. Not quite, but
there's a lot
close.
you don't talk about in Vorinism.
Yeah, well, it's such an odd mix of very free and very stifled.
Yeah, this depends on what the thing is, what they do with it.
Like, I think Brandon had fun mixing. He's just like, okay, what can I pull from this and this? What would be odd to go together, and how can I make it make sense that they do?
Because I mean, even if you think about our culture, there are things that you just don't talk about, even though like everybody knows they exist, but you just don't talk about.
Yeah, and that's true of any culture,
right?
But
and there's always a taboo.
Yeah.
The thing that's funny about him in Vorinism is here he is talking about visions and the codes and all this other stuff, but then he's like, "Oh, Navani, we can't date because the proper
related now.
stuff things."
I love Navani's response. She's like, "No, we really aren't. I don't care what people say. We are not related."
Yeah. I married your brother. Didn't mean that I became your sister.
And again, because he's so very straightforward and sticking to codes and laws.
And straight-laced and kind of like, that's the way it goes, and that's how I do it.
The thing that's interesting, though, is that his being straight-laced is in some ways almost a response to how not he was.
He had been, so
like
he takes a 180 on that.
Yeah. Well, and because that's the thing is, brother said, follow the codes tonight, and he didn't. His brother died, and that's something Sadeas even points out. It's just like you are haunted by his final words.
Yep.
And he's, as much as everyone in the world who's a decent person hates Sadeas, he's not wrong.
Yeah.
He knows that Dalinar is completely messed up.
Well, and the other thing, though, is that both Sadeas and Dalinar kind of blame each other for Gavilar's death.
Yeah.
Because they were both very involved in the whole event.
Mm-hmm. Because Dalinar was drunk off who knows where, but Sadeas failed.
He tried.
Sadeas was supposed to be the diversion, but it didn't work. And so Dalinar kind of holds him responsible for that, because in some ways it was like, yes, I was off here. You knew where he was and you ran away. Which
was the plan.
Probably was the plan, and was probably hard for Sadeas to do.
Oh yeah.
Because as weaselly as he is, he loved Gavilar, and he would have fought for Gavilar. So honestly, in all honesty, he probably didn't like being the distraction.
And he probably had to sit there and worry all this time and sit there and go, did I give myself away somehow? Did I do something that made it so that Zeth realized that I wasn't the king?
When in all honesty, Zeth is just too stinking clever.
Yeah, he was like, wait a second. Because he almost fell for it, and then he caught...
And even Zeth lamented how clever he was.
He's like, why do I have to be so good at this? I don't want to be good at it.
Yep.
Because you're a plot device, Seth. But that's a different episode.
Okay, before we move on to Adolin, because this is kind of a transitionary thing between Dalinar and Adolin too, let's talk a little bit about Shardplate. Because this stuff is freaking amazing.
It's so cool. It regrows itself.
Well, I think I remember Brandon saying in some Q&A or something, he basically wanted to figure out a way to get mechs into a fantasy world.
Yeah,
and gosh darn it, he did it.
Well, as someone who likes to play World of Warcraft, the armor they come up with for it, especially the heavy plate, it doesn't make sense. The shoulder pads are way too big. There's no way you'd be able to see anything.
And they hover over the...
Yeah, there's
you just have to look at the female armor and go, yeah, that's a stupid planning device there. Because if you have like cleavage in your armor, it's going to divert the sword right to the middle, and you're going to die, and it's going to suck.
Literal
cleavage. The bare midriff. Cause...
Oh yeah, I mean you got plenty of targets all over the place, but I just remember reading that detail and thought it was interesting that it's like it diverts the sword right where you wouldn't want it.
But the thing that I find interesting about this, Brandon likes to say, okay, how do I make X happen? And the shard plate, it's like, okay, I want them to have this really cool armor that would weigh 900 pounds. Well, it's going to make them stronger, it's going to regrow, and for reasons that will never be explained, the visors are somehow Iron Man heads-up displays. But...
because it's cool.
And why do they need this power armor? Well, to protect them from lightsabers, of course.
Yeah.
So...
lightsabers that scream at you.
Because shard... Well, some people. You don't find out about that until another book.
Sorry. Blur.
No, but, the thing... Okay, so shard blades.
Yes. They're huge.
One thing I love is the concept of... It's not 10 seconds. It's 10 heartbeats. Mm-hmm. And so, if you're in an adrenaline-fueled state...
It's faster.
It's going to come faster, which makes sense, because you probably need it faster.
Yeah. And I love the imagery, like, it's covered in, like, dew, like, whenever it appears, too. That just has to look cool.
Uh-huh.
It's the other thing that's so cool about the concept of the shard blade, that fits very well with his universe, is just the simple fact that it can't cut through living things.
It just kills.
It just severs them from life.
Yeah.
And so...
Well, and the other thing it can't cut, shard blades and shard plate. Mm-hmm. These are all things, living things. Shard blade and shard plate are all invested. Mm-hmm. And it's just one of these little details I love.
Mm-hmm. And Brandon has said that invested objects, like if there was something that had been invested with breath, say from Malthus, it would be harder to cut.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, invested objects just...
I just had this funny imagery of little... I have this funny image of little straw men getting sick down a shard bear.
like the Chalklings from the Arithmetist.
Oh my goodness!
I'm still not convinced that's not a Cosmere novel.
It was originally supposed to be.
Oh,
I think the original concept was supposed to be.
That would be freaky.
Anyway. I love it.
My brain.
Okay, so we've talked about shard plates and shard blades. There's one other thing that it's not quite the same, but I feel like there's a link. We haven't fully gotten the explanation. The Rashadium.
Pretty smart.
I love the ideas of the Rashadium because they're these just Clydesdales on steroids, essentially.
I know. Do they even say if they have the... Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. The feathering on their hooves or not.
No idea, but I imagine it just because...
Because, I mean, if they're that big, usually
Yeah.
you see, like, bigger horses are that way. But the weird thing with real-life big horses is that they're usually not as excitable when they're big horses because they're called cold-blooded, even though they aren't actually cold-blooded. And then there's warm-blooded are usually what you see in, like, dressage shows and stuff like that. Hot-blooded ones, like Arabians and thoroughbreds and stuff like that. And they're just more excitable and easily frightened and things like that. And so it's usually about temperament. But
Interesting.
I used
did
to
not
really
know
love
this.
horses. I rode horses for a little while, and then we got to jumping, and I said, no, I'm good. I don't want to jump. And the horse didn't want to jump either, so we were good.
I can't remember. Is this the book we see like there's a moment that Dalinar has with Gallant or Gallant or however it's pronounced? I'd say Gallant.
I think he has a few more few moments with him.
Okay. Because I love the concept. It's not just, hey, this is a really nifty horse. There's something special about them. There's something.
They're bonded.
Well, and it's not just intelligence either. Like there's magic in them in some way. And Brandon, I think, might go into it a little bit in later books, but in this one, it's just these are mystical in some way, and it's because they're the only horses that can carry
faster, too.
They heal fast, and again, there's that bond. There's that connection between the horse and his master.
Yeah.
And they don't. Yeah, and they're stronger because a normal shard bearer riding a horse, they have to be careful because otherwise they can break the horse's back because they're so heavy.
Yeah, I don't know, but I just love the concept of the two smart eyes where there's just a little bit more there.
Yeah, it's like this isn't just a horse.
This is so much more. And even have you guys ever ridden horses or anything?
No.
Like, they're smarter than you would think, even just normal horses. And some of them just come off as blasé and whatever else, but they're usually just bored out of their mind.
Right.
So. Oh. There's a comment. I think Brandon said that the Rushinian are bonded.
That might be... I think that...
Is that spoiler?
I don't know if it is or not.
It wouldn't be surprising. Just because we've seen other...
I can't remember if something like that was mentioned in something else. But yeah, there's some sort of tie, I think, to the cognitive realm. And so no worries about that.
I do plenty of almost spoilers all the time. It's terrible.
But yeah, it's just the Rashadium. There's something about them, and I can't wait to see more. And
I just have always loved the pretty horse thing too, which is shallow, but it's cool.
Well, and I feel like Brandon's going to go a lot more in depth on them later on.
And there's some fun
he's
scenes.
There's too many tidbits for there not to be more.
And there were some really fun scenes in the next one with Kaladin and horses.
I forgot about those.
Yes. There's a sketch that I don't remember if we put it up yet. It's a 6-7. I think it might be for later that I have that someone did that I really love that sketch. The Kaladin.
We were talking about horses carrying people in shard plate, and I just remembered the scene where Dalinar just gets the thought, he's like, why not? And he just takes off running down the hallway and then jumps down the stairs, freaks everyone around him out.
Well, when someone's running in shard plate, like,
it's loud.
And these are weapons of mass destruction.
It's like somebody decided to, bounce a warhead down the stairs. Play Slinky with it.
This will be fun.
Just to see what happens. Just because it's there. Okay, so speaking of shard bearers, there's another impressive shard bearer that we see a lot of. That's, of course, Adolin Kholin, Dalinar's older son. Why did I say elder? I sound pretentious. Wow, his older son.
If the boot
it's still technically
dude.
Correct. He's totally a playboy. That's kind of a...
Okay, he's not a very good playboy though. Like this is
he wants to be a fop. Is the thing, but he's got too much Dalinar in him, and so he can't.
Yeah.
He's too hardcore.
He's too nice too. Which is a good thing, but it doesn't work well for being a true fop.
Well, like, there's the scene where Kaladin sees him for the first time. Where, I'm trying to remember, he comes to a woman's aid, right?
Yeah, she was and now I can't remember the nice word for it, but she was a
courtesan.
A courtesan.
Yes, I was like, what is the nice word for it? And she wasn't getting paid, and so she's out, like, getting thrown into the street or fighting with the guy, and he's about to hit her, and Adolin steps in and goes, "You were not about to hit her, right?" And he has, like, 2 or 3 guys backing him up, too, and the guy's like, "No, I guess I was."
Well, no, because the guy first was trying to, and then Adolin's like, and he's like, I can't, the guy, like, spit on him, and Adolin, like, looks down, because, and then, what I love is this is all from Kaladin's perspective, and this is the first meeting between them, is he looks down, and he gets this smile on his face, because this is the thing. I don't know if you got, so, I had a buddy who had anger management issues and used to manage them with a lot of judo. And for reasons that are too long to get into, he couldn't really manage it through judo anymore. And so he kind of started going around looking for reasons to righteously bully someone. Because he has all this anger he wants to get out. Adolin is very good at dueling and fighting. Adolin has been told by his father, no dueling, like, you have to be honorable. And this man just gift wrapped him a reason. And Adolin,
what you just did.
It's just like, oh, you don't know who I am, do you? And then just puts his hand out, summons the shard blade, and the guy's immediately just like, okay, immediate regret.
I've made a mistake. I've made
I've made a horrible, horrible mistake.
Oh, but Adolin's fun because he is such a weird mix of... He is a weird mix. He's trying to get his father's approval, while at the same time trying to get his father to stop being so weird about everything. He is trying to be a playboy, while at the same time not really doing a lot of the right things for being a playboy. Like, he is
like he's good at catching girls, but not maintaining.
Yeah,
he's not so much a playboy as a serial playboy.
Yeah,
because a playboy is one who's, like, dating 50 girls at once and stuff. Adolin just can't get a girl to stick.
He's starting, and then he loses another one just as soon as he's starting his first and a second one, and he's just going back and forth.
Yeah, and, I mean, he never gets to see their safe hands. It's just the poor guy.
I don't think you see that until you're married.
Yeah, that.
Okay, no, but in book 3, we totally see him trying to cop a look. So he's trying to get that sweet.
Going, this is really not that different from the other one. I don't see what the appeal is, but okay.
It's the mirror image. It's exactly anyway.
It should be anyway.
He can't keep a girl, and he has everything working for him. He's first in line as a high prince. He is, by all accounts, and I think even Kaladin says it, a gorgeous man.
He's attractive, yes.
And
baby it's like a pirate had a baby with an angel.
Yeah.
We don't need to go into that movie right now.
But he's very pretty. He's insanely skilled. Like, it's a later book, but even Sadeas begrudgingly is like, he's another Blackthorn in the waiting. Like, he's terrifying in combat. He's an excellent leader. By all accounts, he is amazing and a catch on every level. Mm-hmm. And yet he somehow loses every girl. And it's all because he kind of has a wandering eye syndrome, and he's never really focused.
And that's the thing, is he loses every girl, but it's also because he's never satisfied with any specific girl. You know, he's got a lot of grass is greener on the other side in his, as soon as
he likes the chase.
In a relationship, he's just like, okay, that was fun. What's next?
Yeah, and he likes the pursuit and the chase and then as soon as he has it, he's kind of like, okay, what do I do with this now? And
and he doesn't and it's not until we see in a later book, we're not going to go too much, but it's almost like he's relieved when he finally gets told this one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he's just so
like,
bad.
I haven't been doing a good job on my own. Somebody please help me.
Just make it an easy choice.
Well, and I love it. He's so bad, Even Renarin gives him guff for it.
Renarin.
He like Renarin, who's kind to everyone, and he's just like, so, she's not here anymore either, huh?
But the thing is, that's how sibling relationships often work.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
No, but the thing that's interesting about Adolin, you mentioned he's another Blackthorn in the making, but in some ways it feels like Adolin is a decathlete to Dalinar's brawler.
Oh, yeah.
Dalinar is straightforward. I'm going to beat you down. You're going to stay down. Game over. Adolin is a dancer, and when he uses what is it, wind stance?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like that's typically the stance that he goes with, which is a much more fluid and moving one. While Dalinar's, I think, is stone stance, which is just basically.
I know he uses it sometimes, but he also does use.
They switch between them, but the biggest thing that you're getting at, and it's very true, is Adolin takes to dueling so naturally, and on top of it, Dalinar is a warrior, and Dalinar learned how to fight. This is the person who has now had all of Dalinar's years of experience in fighting, in leading, in combat, poured into him from a very young age.
And had access to other good tutors, too.
Yeah, and so he's not just a Blackthorn in the waiting. He's the man who's been molded by the Blackthorn.
Right.
He's Blackthorn 2.0.
Yeah, he's the upgrade.
And the other thing is that, Dalinar wins the fight. Adolin enjoys the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he relishes the fight. He likes again, it's a dance to him. And so it's just interesting seeing that interplay, but he's also, like we said, he is a really good guy. He wants to be good. He wants to impress his father, but he's still very young. Mm-hmm. And he behaves as a young man.
And the other thing, while he is trying to gain his father's favor, he also is not intimidated by his father.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he is in the sense that he doesn't want to...
disappoint him.
Yeah, disappoint him, but not in the sense that he's not afraid to talk to him.
To speak his mind. To speak his mind or say, I really think that's wrong, Dad. But he does it out of everybody else's view.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when Dalinar comes to him and he says, I think I'm going to step down. Adolin is... it's exactly what Adolin was asking him to do.
But
he just gets his feeling. It's like, I don't think I want this.
This is a lot of responsibility really fast.
It's like, I was wanting him to either be the Blackthorn or step down. Now that he's stepping down, I don't want him to step down. I want him to be.
Well, he never told his father that he should completely step down.
Right. That's true.
He wanted his father to give up on all this vision stuff and see that, dude, maybe you're just going crazy. Like, let's start transitioning this.
Right.
And
then Dalinar just says, okay, cold turkey, here we go.
Because he's Dalinar, and Dalinar is not a man of half measures.
Right.
But,
yeah, he just says, okay, this is the goal. This is how we get from point A to point B. Boom. And he jumps. And it is just like, whoa, wait a second.
More than I wanted, all of a sudden. Yeah, also another interesting thing about Adolin is that he also has a Rishidium.
Yes.
Too. But his is white. And isn't Gallant black? I think so.
I don't know. I don't see race.
Oh boy, there we go.
Anyway.
Jordan's talking racism about horses.
So, looks, these are the uncomfortable subjects that someone needs to talk about.
Not on this show, though.
Oh.
Okay, so,
anyway.
Moving on.
Yes.
So let's take a step away from Adolin and move to one of my favorite characters in the entire Cosmere, Navani. Navani is just the kind of woman who she's done playing games. She decides what she wants. She goes, she gets it, and anybody who gets in her way had better just they immediately regret what they've done, because she does not let anything stand in her way. She moves forward, and if you're in her way, she's just going to go right over you.
Yeah, but she also does have some vulnerabilities and problems that she's going through. Not that anybody finds out about them until she finally confronts Dalinar about it.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about that.
So I'm forgetting some of the details because it's been a while since I listened to it this time.
We've been talking about this book for a while, and it starts to fade.
Yeah, the little details. It doesn't help that I will remember details from book 2 or book 3, and I'm like, wait, which book was it in? But I can't remember exactly what leads up to it, but I think she was able to listen to one of his visions, or she was transcribing one, or something like that.
She transcribed it, yeah, because he didn't trust anybody but her.
That's right. And so she finally gets him to admit that they do like each other, and she doesn't care if society says that, yes, you're brother and sister now since you were married, you were sister-in-law. And they kiss and embrace. In
a very Alethi moment of pure passion.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
There's even passion spren. We find out about the passion spren exist. I don't remember what they look like, but I'm like, that's kind of cool that they exist. That's got to be interesting.
Yeah.
But she admits that she's like, ever since Gavilar died, or Gavilar? Yes, King Gavilar. I thought I was thinking of Elokar. But ever since he died, she's like, I'm just a placeholder and a thing. I don't get to be a person anymore. I get shuffled to the side, and I'm just supposed to hang out, and I'm not allowed to be part of politics. I'm not allowed to be part of really anything that matters, because everything that was part of her status was connected to her now dead husband. And so she's just done.
I feel like one of the best ways to sum up Navani is, this is the woman who was able to be the mother of Yesna Kholin.
Oh.
Because
that's a pretty good summary.
That is right.
A special kind of person.
I could not have been her mother. I would not have done well.
And even she was just sort of, she had no idea how to handle Yesna sometimes. But
this is my kid, really?
But honestly, this is the woman who could do it. If anybody could.
The thing that's interesting about her as a character that I found most interesting was the fact that she occupies a very strange spot in my experience of fantasy, in that you don't normally see these aged women, aged. Middle,
like what, in her 50s?
Yeah. You don't tend to see people you don't tend to see people in that age group. Like, that's not something they tend to do.
If they're anything, they're like a background character who's like selling something.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
And so you don't tend to have them. But the other thing that's interesting about her specifically is that she, in all the ways sort of Dalinar typifies what an Alethi man should be, except for how he, defies tradition in X way. She's very much the same way. She is the definition of what an Alethi woman should be, except for... And then she has just this one area where she just says, nah, I don't care.
Not doing that.
And because she is a consummate fabrial engineer, and she's using her position correctly, because she could be someone who's sitting there designing new fabrials, but she knows, because of her position, she'd be better off being sort of an angel investor almost.
As a patron, yeah.
A patron, yeah.
Yeah. And she knows that she could do a lot of things herself just fine, but she's learned the art of delegation. Mm-hmm. And it's just very interesting to me that she, very much like her daughter, has her fingers in so many different pots. Anyway,
I'll say.
Pot pies.
That's the confusion. Yes, we'll blame it on that. And I just love that she just comes in and immediately, like, just like Yesna would, dominates. The moment she's there, she changes everything. Mm-hmm. And it makes you understand that, yes, Yesna is difficult to deal with, but at the same time, Yesna had to learn from someone, and this is the woman.
Yes. That she learned it from, I'm sure. Yeah.
No, she's just such a fascinating character. And to the point where, again, this is the woman who intimidates the Blackthorn. Because Dalinar, again, he is this rock, this solid tree in the storm. She walks into a room and he turns to jelly.
And he tells people, he's like, don't let her be in the room alone.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
He actively tries to run away from her.
Uh-huh.
Note, Chasm Fiend's crab claw coming down, he catches it in epic fashion. And to the point where Adolin's like, oh my goodness. And
he's my dad that I wanted to see right here.
Yeah, he sees the Blackthorn, that's right.
He sees Navani Kholin, and he's just like, nope, can't do this.
K-A-T, I'm out of here.
This is the purple slick, I gotta run away.
Yeah, but the thing that's interesting though is like back when Gavilar and Dalinar were fighting for her affections, in some ways Dalinar kind of won her, but she went with Gavilar because he was more stable.
She brings up the fact that he scared her.
But it seems like her heart was still with Dalinar, and so finally she's like, okay, this is the man who had my heart when he was unstable, and now he is the most stable man in all of Alethkar.
So he's probably really hot.
So she's just like, all right, I'm done waiting.
Well, and there was also, she also mentioned, I think in that same conversation, that she's like, I thought you hated me for a while, because once he found out that Gavilar liked her and kind of put his, like, I claim her kind of stake on it, he's like, oh, okay, I guess I gotta back off. And so he didn't know how to, like, put himself in the friend zone. So he just went 2 steps further and gave her, like, I'm not gonna be in the same room as you. And just, and so she was like, okay, what did I do? I liked him, but now I guess I'm gonna go. I think that's also part of it. It's not just that she went with stability, but with Dalinar just, like, freaked out on me and suddenly is being weird.
It's a very human story. Like it's very relatable, I feel. And so I think it's one of the best relationships that Brandon has written, because it's so flawed but still very
understandable,
admirable. It's something that people want, even though it's not perfect.
It's real.
Yeah, exactly. It's just it is very real. And so I love that. Now, we mentioned Navani's daughter, Yesna. She also had another child who is not quite as cool as his sister.
Poor Elhokar. Poor guy. He's got issues. Oh my goodness.
You ever met that guy who was born with the silver spoon in his mouth, knew it, and just couldn't ever figure out that, man, I know I'm supposed to do something with the silver spoon, but I'm just not good.
To be fair, this is a man who's growing up in the shadow of Gavilar.
Oh, yeah.
Who is
and the shadow of the Blackthorn, too.
Right. But Gavilar is who the Blackthorn looked up to. And so, I mean, just think about having him as a dad. And then you have to replace him at a very young age, and you know that everybody is just thinking, not him, somebody else.
The thing that's also interesting about that is the conversation that Dalinar has talking about the kingdom and how they've studied this, and the most precarious time for any new kingdom is the successor.
Because it's still a fairly new kingdom, and this is the person who didn't actually win the kingdom themselves, but their child.
Yeah,
People will stay with the first king because
they got beat. They had the snot beat out of them.
He has proven himself. Yeah. They'll stay with the third king, because a pattern has been set. But the second king is just sort of this very flux.
He's just a dude
who happened to be born to the guy who got it right,
or got picked by them if they didn't have kids themselves, or what.
Right.
And he also, which there's spoilery things that I'm not going to say what the spoilers are, but he also has other issues that make him kind of paranoid.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I didn't pick up on as well until the second read this time. That I was like, oh, there were connections that I should have caught on to earlier, but I totally didn't.
Yeah, I was the same way.
Yeah,
But-
there was just too much detail for me to catch those little hints that now I'm seeing him going, oh, well, there's an obvious hint right there now that I know what I'm looking for since I saw it in book 2 and 3.
Yeah,
Right.
I'm the same way. My first reading of these books, I actually didn't like this book that much. But the second reading, because I know what I'm looking for,
Mm-hmm.
it's a much better read the second time through.
It's very much setting the stage for an epic series.
Mm-hmm.
And when you don't know what is being said on the stage, you don't, like you said, you don't know what to look for. So you don't know, okay, this is why this is being, why they're talking about this.
This is a
Why
really
do I
big
care?
deal. Yeah, or this random line or reference that they say has so much significance, but nobody at that time realizes that significance. Only people who've read book 2 and 3 go, oh, it's that thing with the stuff. And spoiler.
Exactly. Now, but the thing that's interesting is just the whole storyline that Elokar creates with the cut strap,
Oh,
and
my
how that
goodness.
drives the story, and how it almost torpedoes Dalinar.
So badly.
Just because it's, and we find out at the end of the book that he knows for certain that somebody cut the strap. How does he know for certain? Because he cut the
He
strap,
did it.
or he had somebody do it. I can't remember but
He was behind it.
he
Either
was
way.
behind it, and he's basically trying to.
Because he wants
Watch
Dalinar to take him seriously, and Dalinar's like, I was taking you seriously.
I was taking you seriously. It's this kind of crap that makes me not take you seriously. And so.
It's kind of like the boy who cried wolf a little bit, in that
Exactly.
it's like I've been investigating every time, but when you do something stupid, then I'm gonna go, well, do I really want investigating every little thing that you mentioned? Because
And the problem is, he does so many things that are so stupid.
goodness.
You're just like, really? So this was you thought this was a good plan? Okay.
But then
Okay.
it leads to one of the best moments again at the end, where Dalinar comes in and he's like, okay, this kind of stuff, this isn't happening anymore, and I'm going to tell you why. Now he does it.
It's actually a little more of a object lesson here.
Yeah,
A little physical demonstration with some violence thrown in.
but it's just, what you did almost ruined everything. You not trusting me. Like, I am probably the person you can trust more than anyone else in the world, and you need to trust somebody. So if
Yeah.
I'm not the person you trust, that means you're choosing somebody you can't trust as much, and that's a problem.
Yeah.
And so, but I love, because they do end up coming to, like, I think he gets the point across to Elokar.
Yeah.
Just a
And-
little.
Yeah.
And that's after Bridge 4 is
The Battle of the Tower? Or,
Yeah, it's after the okay.
I think so, yeah.
Because I don't think he's still wearing his armor from then, isn't he? His shard plate. Like, he hasn't had time to
Yeah, because it's immediately after the battle.
after they get back from the tower, and he's lost a ton of his soldiers and everything, and he's just like, nope, I'm fixing this problem now. I think.
I think that's right.
Yeah, that's correct, because at that point he's weak in a military sense.
Uh-huh.
And so it's one of those things that it does absolutely have to be done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
And that's when he demands to be made
High Prince of War.
High Prince of War. He's like, no, we're doing this now.
Well, because, he's wanting to be High Prince of War, and he presents it, and then Elokar instead makes Sadeas High Prince of Inquisition, or...
Information.
Information. It's just like, dude, you did the exact wrong thing.
And that's sort of his problem, is he's trying so hard. You root for the guy because he is trying. He's not this person who is Like, he's not lazy. He
Right.
just doesn't know how to do the right thing. Just all the political instincts of his father, he doesn't have them. All the genius of his mother and his sister, he doesn't have it.
He's just horribly insecure.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think is what it
That's
is.
the
So
thing.
he's-
Again, your father is the Blackthorn, your mother is Navani, and your sister is Yasna Kholin.
His father is actually not the Blackthorn, but
Your father is not the Blackthorn.
Your
father
uncle.
is the Blackthorn's older brother. Sorry.
Yeah.
Your
Your
but
father is the king who united all of Alethkar.
he has so
For the
many
first time in-
giant shadows walking
Yeah.
around him.
I mean,
And
Yasna's younger than him, right? Or is she?
think-
I think
So-
she's older.
Is she older?
I
Because I
think
was
she's
gonna say-
actually younger.
I,
I
Now we have to
can't
go look.
remember.
If only there was some way to find out.
hold on. I'm gonna go look.
If only you could tap, say, a copper mine or something.
I'm
If
on
only.
7. I'm on there.
According to Galthos in the chat, she's older.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was gonna
I
say
like
if
that
she-
because that says I'm right.
And that's how we decide things.
anyway. I was just gonna say it would have been even worse for him if it was his younger sister, because then it would be
Right.
like, and my younger sister's even more prominent and skilled than me. But if it's his older sister, then slightly less bad. But I mean, they still have the whole male female.
Right.
It's not good.
It's
No.
not. No, it's not great, but it's a little better that she's the older sister, at least in my mind, for Gavilar
But yeah, it's just in that family.
or Elokar.
Even if you're above average, you're going to be
You're so
insecure.
not. Mm-hmm.
And so, because that family is just, there is nothing,
Oh,
there is no
yeah.
average in that family.
They're the cream of the crop of the crop.
Mm-hmm.
Cream of the cream.
And so, all right, so there's one other major player that we've got to talk about before
We don't like him though.
we hate
Oh.
him. We despise him in just about every single thing he does. It just makes him worse.
And now all I can think about is the fact that he has a big nose and like a red face. That randomly came to me. Anyway,
His name is Toral Sadius. And my gosh, he he keeps finding ways to make us hate him. You know, even there are moments where you see, okay, I understand why Gavilar was friends with him when they were younger, but then he just does something else. He disparages human life, especially Dark Eyes.
all the bridgemen. Oh my goodness.
His bridge crews, he has them not because, like, yes, they're faster, but he doesn't give them armor, not so that they can be faster, but because that
They're
way
an
the
easy
Pershini will
target.
be distracted by them and try and kill them. And yeah, it's just
What? You don't like human shields?
No,
Oh,
Not so
No, I don't.
much.
actually, I'm gonna get something because I have an image in my head
okay.
of
The
Toral
listeners are
Sadius.
gonna love this.
The listeners are gonna love this. I will describe it.
They're gonna be afraid of how much they love this.
If anybody has heard of the game Sheriff of Nottingham, this is how I picture Toral Sadius.
Oh, that guy's a little chunkier than I think of Sadius being.
I always imagined Sadius being because they always talk about how he's red faced and sweaty. So I always imagine him being a bit bigger. So,
Yeah.
but it just
But that's kind of the nose that I picture, though, is that.
Yeah, he's just got that monster
Yeah.
nose. So yeah,
The thing I like about him as a villain, first of all, Brandon has touched on irredeemably horrible people as villains. Ruin comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
But Ruin is a product of the shard he holds.
yes.
Denth is pretty despicable, but you get the impression he was a good guy once.
Yeah, well, I mean, they were the five scholars were friends.
Yeah, and that just the situation has conspired against him in such a way that he's gone horribly wrong, that he broke
His
bad.
brother died and everything else.
Yeah, I mean, eventually you're gonna give in some
Yeah.
way.
Sadius betrays everything the man he proclaims to love was setting up. Because he doesn't worship Gavilar anymore. He worships the man Gavilar was before Gavilar started doing things that I don't really agree with. And I'm going to choose to remember that version of him. He's it's like it's a buffet, and he's taking the parts that he likes and not the parts that, oh, no. And Dalinar should stop that too, because if he doesn't, I'm gonna have to murder him.
Well, and that's the thing is he says you're like you're behaving the same way Gavilar did at the end, and it's just sort of a when he was actually being a pretty good guy.
Well, I don't know. I have questions, but that's next book.
Comparatively good.
Yeah.
And
but
so
it's just one of these things. Everyone else around him is trying to make the world a better place. And it's as if he sat there and said, man, if only I could make it so that the sun doesn't shine today, then I'd be happy.
Mm-hmm.
Or he just feels incredibly selfish to me. That it's like, this is, things are going good this way, but it's not benefiting me enough, so I need to make sure that I benefit most.
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of the feel I get.
He wants everybody else to be more miserable than he is, so that he's not comparatively as miserable.
Yeah.
And so.
And plus, he's mean.
He is. He's such
It's still kind of... I don't quite process this in my head, because for some reason, I had it in my head that, just because they're the main characters, Kaladin lived in Dalinar's princedom. I don't know why.
No,
but he was in Thaddeus's princedom.
And
he was.
And wanted so badly to serve under him.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really weird thing to look back on it and reread the beginning and go, he was looking up to who? Because you're just like, no, you would not have been happy in Thaddeus's camp.
But at that point, he doesn't know that, and he's trying so desperately to get to his camp.
Right.
Because he's like, then we can finally be with Bright Lords who are honorable. Like Thaddeus.
And it's like
you're so very, very wrong.
Oh, honey.
Oh, honey.
You were going to have a rude awakening.
Well,
yeah.
And the other thing that's interesting is he does a really good job of picking up Dalinar's slack when they're pulling in the same direction.
Right.
And that's
he's very competent. He's an excellent strategist.
And you know what? He's actually a fairly decent warrior. Sure, he doesn't have the blade he wants, but once you see him with the bow, it's just like, okay, well,
that's still a pretty good tool.
Yeah, that's a neat trick. But
that's true.
He's just the worst.
The tower just makes me angry.
Well, because it's such a cold betrayal. And it's not just a betrayal of Dalinar. Like, he decides he's not just going to kill Dalinar, he's going to murder his entire army.
And that's like 5,000? Or was it 8,000? It was some insanely large.
Yeah, it's in the
insanely
thousands.
large number.
And even if because that is still at least him, somewhat trying to do what he, quote unquote, sees as the right thing. It's the fact that he was also going to turn it to be to his political advantage.
And
which is why the moment when Dalinar comes walking up again is so amazing, because
there's the sash that Navani did in red. Yeah.
Oh, and then on top of that, just the fact that he's walking up and I think it's Kaladin's perspective where he's just like, and Thaddeus just looked pissed. Because could you imagine being Thaddeus at that moment where he's just sitting here, it's like, what do I have to do?
Well, it's not just that, though. He's told everybody, I saw him fall.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's like, now I look like I lied.
He is absolutely caught in this lie. And Dalinar basically says, you know what? I'm going to give you this. The only reason you have not been completely destroyed is because I chose not to destroy you. And that tears Thaddeus up even more.
Oh,
so
blackmail.
One thing, except it's not blackmail at all.
No,
I'm sorry. He does not have Thaddeus at all, because the thing is,
that's true.
He could say that, but it would plunge them into civil war, because there's no way Dalinar can say that and not go to war. Dalinar's at his weakest, and Dalinar is the power behind the throne. and so it would split everything. And so that's the thing that's so interesting about it is Sadeas was trying to move the pieces in such a way that he would be the lone person with the ear to the throne, and no one could challenge him. But he still didn't really lose that much power.
But the thing that did happen is suddenly Dalinar has no more reason to hold back.
Yeah.
Because he has been holding back this entire time.
Well, and then we find out, well, and he decided to trust him. Because of visions that we need to talk about.
That is something we need to talk about.
One last thing about Sadeas is, like, he drove up the numbers Dalinar brought.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because so it wasn't just bring your bare minimum, it was, no, bring as many as you can. So I could kill as many of your people. That is the extra.
Man, those numbers you're telling me, those are rookie numbers. We gotta get those way up.
We gotta get those way up. We gotta kill more of your people.
No, okay, but that vision that Jerome was talking about, we need to talk about this. Where suddenly Dalinar realizes, I am not having a conversation.
Something.
Well, Jordan,
sorry, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
We had static.
What is that?
Just don't worry about it.
But, yeah, essentially, Dalinar realizes he's not having a conversation. He is watching a recording. And so all of the responses to his questions he thought he was getting, such as, should I trust Sadeas? He didn't get, like, that wasn't a response to his question, so he's been working under some very, very false premises. And
that would be a horrible feeling to realize, to be like, oh no.
So something I found interesting about it is...
And, by the way, we do want to start wrapping up soon.
Yeah, so the thing that was interesting about the visions, other than the fact that we find out at the end, oh, so these were recordings and Honor is literally dead. And but beyond that, it's the thing I find interesting about it is the first time you read through it, you sort of really are in Dalinar's shoes trying to figure out, because we're so used to these tales and fantasies of cryptic warnings and stuff like that.
Prophecies.
Yeah, and prophecies. When it's just a recording, and I try to put myself in Honor's shoes, leaving these things there for people. And you suddenly realize that would be the dumbest thing in the world for a shard to do. Let's leave cryptic... no, let's make it as clear as possible. And he was trying to do that. But because of the way humans process information, it's our brains are designed to find and seek out patterns. And so we'll do things where suddenly we'll anthropomorphize something that shouldn't be anthropomorphized and read significance into insignificant things. And because Dalinar is asking for questions and expecting some sort of answer, it makes total sense to him that it would give him an answer. And then the moment he goes back and he sends, like, after the illusion has been shattered that this thing has given him the right answers, he's like, why? Why didn't you do this? Pause. And he's just like, I wish I could give you more. And all of a sudden he's realizing that has nothing to do with what I said. And then he asks a different one, and all of a sudden, because the illusion's been shattered, his mind is opened up to, oh,
I've been totally wrong.
This is a problem.
Right.
And I just, that moment of horrid realization is so good. And, it's at the end, so it's, it's got that punch to it. And I just love that Dalinar suddenly thought, he thought he had all this help on high, and suddenly he's left with, I still don't know why I'm having these visions. And I'm still all alone.
Yep.
Right after I've lost everything.
And my god is dead.
Yeah. And boy, that, I'm sure there's no pressure there. But,
not at all.
The only thing he gained out of all that, because he also lost his shard blade because he traded it, all he gained was Kaladin and his crew.
But the thing is, he gained Kaladin and his
Oh,
crew.
yeah. And that's the thing. Even he had no clue what he was buying.
Although I do like his rationalization for, I spent one priceless shard blade for
how many lives?
Yeah, how many priceless lives? And it's just, that's when you're just like, Dalinar, you rule.
You were awesome.
You are awesome. You are exactly who you say you are. And that's when Kaladin sees it too.
Yeah, and he's just
he actually is doing what he claims to be. He's not just posturing.
It almost breaks Kaladin's brain a little bit because he's like, light eyes aren't supposed to do that.
Well,
it's like I've so built it up in his head that they don't do that, but then there's Dalinar who
especially because remember with Kaladin, all of his troubles started when somebody was trying to take a shard blade.
Mm-hmm.
And here's Dalinar Kholin who gives it up.
Yeah. For all the bridgemen, not even just his crew, but all of the bridgemen. For
what other men have claimed are worthless.
Mm-hmm.
And he says not worthless, priceless. And it's just, yes, it's just so cool. Okay, we didn't get to talk about Renarin that much. He doesn't have a whole lot to do in this book, so I think we'll talk more about him when we get to book 2.
But I just feel sorry for poor Renarin, though.
But there is one scene that I do want to talk about. I think it's at the party when Dalinar is talking to Wit, who, of course, we find out is Hoid.
Yes.
Just because there's one moment where Wit just looks at him and he just stares at him for a second and he just says, Adonalcium. And Dalinar's just like, what? And you can because we know some of the story that's going on behind the scenes, we know what Adonalcium is, and we know that Wit is basically digging. He's trying to see if Dalinar knows what Adonalcium is, because there are people on Roshar who are very Cosmere aware.
Mm-hmm.
But I love how it's very blunt but subtle at the same time, because as soon as Dalinar has no idea, he's like, "Oh, I'm just the fool. I'm saying gobbledygook," and
and he goes, "Okay, whatever."
So
what?
There's one more thing I want to do with Dalinar, Renarin, and Adolin in that relationship. Okay. Because everyone is proud of Adolin, because Adolin is the very model of an Alethi gentleman. And Renarin's not. Renarin's wrong in every single way for what an Alethi's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And so Dalinar does treat him as delicate. And there's that one really cool scene with Wit leaning into Dalinar, and he's like, he's not as helpless as you think he's is.
He's stronger than you think.
Yeah. And it does actually, it lets him know that Wit actually, it makes Dalinar start to rethink his opinions on Wit.
He's not just a fool.
But we find out Renarin's not as, he actually has some wit to him as well, because he's sitting there, and Wit is going to town on Sadeas. And Sadeas is planning all the ways he could try to get the guy assassinated, because he's so tired of him. And he looks at Renarin and he's like, if you can say something clever, I'll leave you alone. Something clever.
He's like, it can't be that simple, but I'm going to try it.
And he's just like, well done. Man, if Sadeas ever does get me killed, I guess you can replace me as Wit.
Yep.
And it was nice. I thought it was in this one, but there was some time where Wit was insulting everybody else, but he very softly insulted or kind of joked with Renarin.
Uh-huh.
I thought someone had chastised Witter or commented or noticed in their head or whatever, and why is he messing with Renarin too? And then realized that he wasn't being as harsh.
But at the same time, he has to mess with Renarin, otherwise
people are gonna think something's
and he can't spare him, because then that would make him look weak, and that's what he's already known as.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's I think it was from Dalinar's perspective. I don't think we get up until we get Adolin earlier on, but he does. Dalinar's perspective of Wit was always the more interesting one.
Mm-hmm.
But I just find it so interesting that you see Dalinar suddenly realizing the subtlety of some of these political games that are going on, because he doesn't see it very often. He only gets glimpses because of just how bad he is at them. But when he sees them, he does marvel a little bit at the subtlety that goes on with it.
Right.
And it's very interesting how lightly they do it.
Yep. All right, we really do need to wrap things up. So yeah. Now, as always, we want to thank our patrons who make it possible for us to keep creating more and more episodes of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies. We intend to keep the show, to always keep the show free for everybody, but if you want to support us even with just $1 or $2 per episode, please go to patreon.com/Cosmere Studies. When you become a patron, you get immediate access to our Discord channel, where you can interact with the hosts, you can interact with each other, discuss theories about the Cosmere, and talk to other Cosmere enthusiasts. You also will get access to bonus content like the 6-7, which is a collection of 7 pieces of content every time we put out an episode that we decide that we want to share with you. You'll also get early access to bonus episodes we produce, automatic entry into any giveaways we have, such as the one for our autographed copy of Arcanum Unbounded, and more. And of course, you help us to continue to make the show and improve the quality. As we get more patrons, we're planning to record episodes more frequently. We'll also be able to invest in better equipment to improve the audio and video quality for our listeners and viewers. Now, outside of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, we each have our own projects that we're working on. Jordan, where can we find you outside the podcast?
You can find me at twitch.tv/splicestream. I am starting up with the Salty Playoffs. For those of you who aren't familiar, it's my Amiibo Combat League. Slap is another Amiibo team league, is on Saturdays, where we do Saturday morning Smash, complete with nostalgic commercials. With
cereal.
Yeah, and lots of cereal, and last week a lot of old commercials, and I didn't realize how many Saturday morning commercials involved wrestling, of all things. But yeah, so we're doing that, and it's a ton of fun. And I may be biased, but I think you should tune in.
Are you still making announcements on Twitter or anything? Or
I should be.
You should be. And if people want to follow those, when you do start making them, where should they look?
My Twitter handle is SpliceStream.
Okay. I thought it was the real...
No, that's Instagram.
Oh, that's Instagram.
Yeah, okay. Instagram, I'm the real SpliceStream, because there's an imposter out there, and I like Ghostbusters, so comments are made.
Indeed. And Amy, how about you? Where can we find your...
So I am on Facebook as Coincidence Cosplay and Props, and I am on Instagram as Coincidence_Cosplay, and I'm on Twitter at CoincidenceCosp, because it's too long. Anyway, I do pictures of my cosplay in progress. There's a bunch of pictures up recently from FanX, and there's even a link to the video that somebody took of, they were up, kind of in the front, so they got a good view of everybody doing the thing, and so I have a link to the novice section, which is the section I was in. And if you look, I think, at that person's YouTube thing, you can see the whole contest. They recorded pretty much all of it, so you can see that. And so, yeah. So if you want to see cosplay stuff, or most of that's what I have on there. So, yeah.
Cool. And, of course, when I'm not here, I'm writing board game reviews. I haven't done any for a while because I've been focusing on, getting a day job. And fortunately, I started my new job today, so Yay! I'm excited about that. Hopefully that means that in the evening I'll be able to devote a little bit more time to writing those reviews. I've got a few in the works. So when I'm not here, like I said, I'm writing those reviews over at the Innkeeper's Table at www.innkeeperstable.com. I've also got a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. Each of those can be found on those sites at Innkeeper's Table. If you've enjoyed the show, we would love it if you would give us a 5-star review on iTunes. Aside from becoming a patron, that is the best thing that you can do to support us. It seems like a little, but it really does a lot to help other people find the show and help us to build our community. Also, make sure to share the podcast or videos with any other Brandon Sanderson fans that you may know. We're coming up on the end of our discussion of The Way of Kings, although we do have one more episode. We're basically going to be talking about all the little things that we haven't talked about in the past 3 episodes. The interludes, the epigrams, all of the little side stories that take place, because these books are enormous.
They're huge.
And so we've looked at the big chunks, and now we're going to look at the little grains of sand that have fallen into the cracks. But in the meantime, Jordan and Amy, do y'all have any final thoughts on Dalinar's story?
He would make an amazing father-in-law. Oh my god. He would scare me as a dad, but a father-in-law would be cool, but not quite as intimidating. It's a random thought. I don't know where it came from.
Huh. Interesting. Jordan?
I really look forward to seeing how, because obviously we've gone 3 books in at this point, spoilers, the Navani-Dalinar relationship, how it evolves, because it is one of the more interesting relationships I've ever read in a book. Because there's so much shared intrigue and guilt between them that it can't help but go in interesting directions.
That's true. No, I am definitely looking forward to that. I just love seeing the evolution of this guy, because Dalinar is a completely different person than he was as a young man, but his older self is still completely believable. And I love the fact that Brandon has made this character who has evolved so much over the course of his story, and again, made him believable, made him real. Because even though he's this pinnacle character, he's still very, very flawed. And so I'm looking forward to seeing what more comes out of that in the future. Now, for our listeners, if you have any questions or feedback for us, we would love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and what your favorite moments from the Cosmere have been. What topic have you been dying to know more about? What do you want us to talk about? What theories do you have about what's going on in Brandon's head? Email us at cosmerestudies@gmail.com to let us know. And if you ask a question that catches our interest, we might even talk about it on the show. You can also check out our social media accounts or our videos on YouTube, and we would just love to move forward and talk about your ideas. In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/inkeepers. Let's start over on that. In addition to the live episodes of the show that stream on twitch.tv/InkeepersTable every 2 weeks on Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. Pacific Time, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, listeners can find our videos on YouTube or audio versions of the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, or just about any other service that carries podcasts by searching for Cosmere Studies. Our next episode is actually going to be in 1 week rather than 2 weeks, because we're going to be moving back to our regular schedule. And if you want to make sure you've got all the announcements about what's going on, you can follow us and contact us through Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook under the profile at Cosmere Studies. That's all we've got for this week's episode of the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, but make sure to join us next week. And in the meantime, on behalf of Amy, Jordan, and myself, thanks for listening, and remember, there's always another secret.